Welcome back to the After Hours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco. Co-host today, I have Joseph Prohaska, and we're joined with Chris Mullins from McGillin's Old Ale House in Philadelphia. How you doing, Chris?
I'm real well, thank you.
Yeah, so how are things doing right now in terms of COVID in Pennsylvania?
Right now, I think we're fairly steady. This is a college town, and there's a lot of young people, so we're always watching that carefully.
Awesome. What universities are near you?
Well, we've got more than Boston, just to give you an idea. But Penn, Drexel, Temple, LaSalle, St. Joe's, Jefferson University, which is a medical school, but it's also got allied medical fields as well. University Arts. That's just a few of what's here.
Awesome, yeah. So would you say that most of your demographic is relatively young?
We have, I'm going to say under normal times, our demographic varies according to the time period, the time of the day. So during the day, we're in the center city district, so we get business people, office people. Of course, none of them are working right now; they're all working from home. As the day goes on, we get younger into the evening, and then late at night, of course, it's all young people. We also, early evening, we get a lot of, again, none of it now with the COVID, but we get a lot of tourism, a lot of business travelers, et cetera.
Got a pretty good mix there. Just kind of a fun question, I guess. Do you notice any differences in the drink orders between people that come in between noon and 4, and then people that are there late at night, say 10 or 11?
Well, you're talking to an old timer. So, when you go back to my second bar, which I opened in 81, when people would have 2 martinis at lunchtime or 2 Manhattan at lunch and beer and everything else, to today where most people don't drink at all during the day, very, very little bit. You get some action. People, the leisure travelers and that type of thing. A few people will have a beer before they go back to work, but it's definitely different. And then, of course, at night, we're as you can imply from the name, this is McGillin's Old Ale House. So, as you can imply from the name, we're very beer centric.
Yeah, going off of that, how long have you been in operation, and how long has McGillin's been in operation, and how long have you owned McGillin's?
Okay, McGillin's has been here for 160 years. That's since 1860. I have to say I haven't been here the entire time. I came in here with my wife in 1993, so I guess that makes it 27 years.
Very cool. Yeah, my parents were not born. My parents were married in '93, so not that really is applicable in this situation, but it was a great year.
And you said you owned a second bar as well?
Well, this is our third place that we've operated. We had one. I'm not sure where are you broadcasting from? What kind of a?
Yeah, we're from Toledo, Ohio, so
okay.
right under the border in Michigan.
Okay, so Philadelphia is a big metropolitan area, about 5 million people. So our first one was in a neighboring county called Delaware County, and that was called Morley's Pub. We operated that for about a year, and then we sold it to a partner and moved to Norristown, which is the county courthouse for county seat for Montgomery County, which is another neighboring county. And then we came here. We sold that in 90, and we came here in 93.
Very cool. I was talking to Irene earlier, great woman, and she was taking care of all of the PR stuff on your end in order to set this up. So shout out to her. And she really wanted me to highlight the fact that you guys are known for your matchmaking. Can you give us a little insight on that?
We're very collegial, as opposed to college type, very collegial kind of place. Our tables are very close together. We pack the place. Typically, there's hundreds and if not thousands of people that go in through here during the course of a day and a night. So when there's alcohol and there's young people are close together, they bump into each other, they meet each other, and we've had many people get married who have met here.
Very cool, yeah. And there was actually a couple articles I saw that were published about you guys, specifically highlighting that. And if I read that correctly, you guys actually have specials for people that have engagement parties at McGillin's.
We have a guest book, I call it the Sweetheart Guest Book, and people who have met here sign it, and they can write their stories in there if they like, or send us a story or send us a poem or whatever. So we have dozens and dozens of people, maybe hundreds of people that have signed that particular guest book.
That's so cool. Yeah. So anybody listening, if you're looking for your soulmate, head on down to McGillin's.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did you first get into the food and beverage industry?
My father was a chef. So when I was young, it was before we had folks coming from all over the world to work in the industry. When people were short of cooks or dishwashers or cleaners or busboys, my mother and father had 4 children. So my father's friends who were in the business would call my mother up and say, "Hey, you got a kid that wants to work." So my first job was when I was about 10. It was on Cape Cod at the Ebb Tide restaurant. I worked a lot of places on Cape Cod, and in every job from cleaning and cooking and scrubbing trash cans and worked all the way, to cooking and finally a chef at the Captain Williams House in Dennisport, Massachusetts. So I've been in this business my whole life.
So you're like a jack of all trades in the food and beverage industry.
A master of none. I can finish that for you. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I'm not too much of an expert.
Well, I mean, hey, you're owning a restaurant now, and as the owner, I'm sure you're doing a pretty great job of delegating your tasks efficiently. Seeing that you do have some insights into each facet of the company, right? So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Chris, would you say that working in all these different positions and kind of working your way up to actually being an owner of these different establishments, that it kind of helped you along the way, like being in these different positions?
It's essential. And anybody who thinks that they can get into this business and just open up a bar or restaurant because they cook well at home or they like to mix drinks or make beer, anybody who thinks that is very naive. Each of these jobs, and even when you say low-skilled or unskilled position, there's no such thing in this business. Everybody has a skill. You got to know how to do it, whether it's mopping a floor or loading a dishwasher, baking toast, or exquisite specials.
Yeah, I've had a couple jobs here and there, just helping out either friends or family in the food and beverage industry, and yeah, it's pretty taxing. And like you said, there's something to learn at every position, whether it's catering food or being a busboy or dishwasher.
Sure.
Yeah, everything takes a little bit of skill here or there for sure. There's nothing that comes too easy.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what Frankie said, my sisters actually, they work at a pretty large bar in downtown Cleveland, and it's like they have a few thousand people before COVID coming in every single night as well, and it's like just the thought of like there's really no other industry where you have to manage a few thousand people coming in and out every single night.
Sure. What's the name of that bar?
Dante's Inferno in downtown Cleveland.
Dante's Inferno. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty huge in the downtown. They're in the Flats area of Cleveland, and they love it there. They love all the people they meet, and I've only heard good things from it. I've been there a few times as well. And that's only, what is Cleveland, about 4 hours from you guys?
I think it's more like 5 or 6. You have to go, we're in the far eastern part of the state, and Pittsburgh is a good 3 or 4 hour ride, and then another, I think, hour or two to Cleveland. It might just be as much as 6 hours from here. Never been to Cleveland, but my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they have a daughter that lives in the Cleveland area. She works in a clinic, so they've gone out quite frequently.
The Cleveland Clinic is super nice. That whole area, Cleveland is a really great city to be to. If you've never been, it's a good place to go and visit. They have a little bit of everything there, sports, culture. It just good time all around.
So you mentioned it earlier, Chris, that McGillin's Old Ale House, you really try to emphasize the fact that, beer is the main selection there. What would you say is your most popular beers, and are they mostly local or are they domestics?
Well, we specialize in locally brewed craft beer. But having said that, we cater to all people with all different kinds of tastes. Our number one selling by dollar volume are our own beer, lagers, and ales. We have an IPA. It's called McGillin's 1860 IPA. And we have a lager called McGillin's Genuine Lager. We have an ale, McGillin's Real Ale. These are all brewed for us currently by Stouts Brewery in Adamstown, Pennsylvania. And that was our the first thing I did when my wife and I took over is I reached out to Carol Stout, who was the most decorated woman brewer in the United States, and asked her to partner with us, and she came up with a couple beers for us, and we have a great relationship. So our number one dollar volume beer are those three beers. But we do a tremendous amount of the mainstream beers, the Bud Lights, Coors Light, etc. I think we're probably the number one Bud Light customer in the Delaware Valley, which is the 5 counties and 3 states, tri-state area.
This is kind of a wild question. Is there anything that was on the menu in the 1800s that's still on the menu today?
This was a straight ahead bar always. It wasn't, there's a difference between, taverns, country inns, restaurants with bars. So their food was very limited. I could just say potatoes because McGillin's was Irish. So they always had potatoes. In fact, Ma was famous for baking her potatoes, roasting them on the fireplace, which we still have. We don't roast potatoes on it, but she was famous for roasting them and serving them up to her customers. So I'd say potatoes for sure. I imagine they had some other, hearty things like soups and things like that. This area, the city, was built up later it all started along the waterfront. So by the time McGillin's came, they were just starting to build larger buildings. City Hall came a little later, and Wanamaker's department store, which was the first department store in the United States, was a later thing. So the workers used to come in here. It was also the courthouse was nearby, so judges and city officials would come in here. But we weren't noted early on for food. It was mostly just a convenience to keep people here a little bit.
Gotcha. And kind of going off of that, do you guys serve like corned beef and cabbage or any of those other traditional Irish dishes?
We only do corned beef and cabbage during the month we call it St. Patrick's Month, which is the whole month of March. But our number one selling item here is, in terms of entrees, would be our shepherd's pie. So that, along with what we call our mile high meatloaf, those are our 2 top selling entree items. We do a lot of wings, thousands of pounds of wings a week during non-COVID times.
Right now, are you guys able to? Do you do a lot of takeout with the wings and your other foods?
We do some takeout. So to put it in perspective, we would do 1,000. Let's say we do 1,000 pounds of wings. Pre-COVID, we're probably doing 400 pounds. So, we're between 25 and 30% of the business that we were doing before.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And if we ever make it down there, me and Joey, we'll polish off a good, 20, 30 pounds.
We're the oldest bar in the city. We have quite a few, quite a lot of paraphernalia, memorabilia from the city. So it's quite interesting place. A lot of pictures of the famous people that have been here, including the previous vice president of the United States, hopefully the next president of the United States, Joe Biden, and his running mate has also been here. Kamala Harris has been here, and along with a lot of other very notable people.
Wow, they've both been at McGillin's?
Yes, they have.
That's very cool.
So you got a chance to personally meet them?
I got a chance to personally meet the Vice President of the United States, hopefully the next President of the United States. Hope I don't offend too many of your listeners. And I made a nod to Kamala Harris. At the time, she was just a newly elected senator. So it wasn't. Frankly, I was more thrilled to meet Madeleine Albright, who was one of our finest secretaries of state ever, and had my picture taken with her as well. So, there was a lot of people that we got to meet.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient timing, too, that you just mentioned the vice president and Harris, because, the VP debates were last night, and that meme's been circulating of Mike Pence with the fly in his hair. So it's kind of funny.
I was doing my crossword while I'm listening to the debate, and I looked up and I said, oh, my God, I took my newspaper and I ran to the TV to hit that fly. And realized at the last minute it wasn't on my TV; it was on his head. But I'm like, "Oh, damn! How did that fly get in here?" So it didn't.
That's awesome, Chris. Kind of taking it back for a quick second while it's still on my mind. We do eat a lot of wings, Frankie, I, and the other members of our team. What is the most wings you've ever seen somebody eat in a sitting?
Oh gosh, we, as I said before, we're near a lot of universities, but Temple, their football team, particularly in the summertime when they're the football, a lot of sports teams, they like the young people like to stay on campus and get ahead in their coursework or catch up on their coursework. So we've had a number of those Temple football players, and damn, they can drop a lot of wings down. We can buy them 10, 25, or 50. So I know that they do, as well as some of the Philadelphia Eagles, the same thing. We come in here off season and try our wings.
Oh yeah, I could see Lane Johnson eating about 100 at least. I mean, that dude's like 6'5".
He's a big guy. Big guy.
That is wild.
I think Jason Kelsey is an Ohio kid, isn't he? Didn't he come from Ohio? Jason and his brother as the plays for the Chiefs, and he's come in here quite a few times. Jason Kelsey, our center.
They're actually both close to my mom's area from Cleveland Heights, only about 2 minutes from where my mom and my sister lived. So that's pretty funny too.
And they're both hockey players too, from what I understand.
Wow.
Really? Okay.
So you guys have a little bit of everybody. So with all these people coming to McGillin's, would you say if you're in the area, is McGillin's a place that you almost have to stop at?
Absolutely. I mean, I say this humbly. We're the oldest bar in the city. We're one of the oldest in the country. We're just really, and I'm saying this humbly, we're just a great place to come in and hang out and check us out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was one of the first things that I noticed when I came across McGillin's was that you guys are the oldest operating tavern in all of Philadelphia. So, had to reach out, of course, and glad so far. I mean, this is a great conversation.
Glad you're enjoying it. So am I.
So since you own a sports bar, are you pretty into all the different sports?
Yes.
What would you say is your favorite?
Whatever's playing right now. I mean, so all we have right now is the Eagles. They haven't started out very well, but I'm a big fan of all four teams, 5 teams. We also have a good soccer team as well. College basketball. I'm a St. Joe Hawk. Graduated from there, St. Joseph's University, and Villanova as well. I had a master's degree from there. But our college basketball scene is quite lively as well.
Yeah, it's sad that season was like the only one actually canceled this year, not rescheduled.
Terrible.
March Madness it's always a great time. You make your bracket, you get to brag with your friends a little bit. Whoever gets like 20% of the picks right, wins.
Yeah.
And also too, I mean, when March Madness is happening, you can pretty much count on watching sports all day. I mean, from noon to midnight.
Yep.
So yeah, that's always great. But now the follow-up question here is, what was more thrilling for your tavern? Was it Phillies winning the World Series in 2008 or the Eagles winning the Super Bowl in 2018?
Absolutely the Eagles, because it had been since 1960. I was 13 years old, and it was the first time I ever watched sports on TV. So it was thrilling for me personally. We waited so long, and it was very thrilling for the city as well. I would say both were very exciting. We had at least 1 million, and some people say we may have had as many as 2 million people come out for the 2 parades.
Wow!
Oh my God!
So could you even get in and out of the bars or anything?
It was pretty much a line all the time. The days. Well, are you saying about like the Super Bowl Sunday? We had to limit the number of people we allowed in here.
Yeah.
But then for the parade, there was a line all day long. Because the parade route is only about a block away from us.
That is unreal.
We're still waiting for the Lions one of these years or in the next. By the time I die, I just want the Lions to win one Super Bowl. It'd be nice if they even made the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had your share of the Cleveland fans have had their share of great success with their basketball teams.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, having LeBron for a few years was awesome for them. I actually got the chance. I was 5 seats or 5 rows up from the court watching LeBron play about 4 years ago. So it's crazy just seeing him in person. You think he's big, and then you see him in person, you're like, oh my gosh, he is huge.
And he's built. He is built too. I mean, he's broad and tall, strong guy.
Yeah, and it looks like he's about to get another one this year, unless he can come back from 3-1.
Yeah, don't count out Butler. He's a very good player.
He is. It's hard with LeBron and AD on the same team. They're pretty outmatched.
Jimmy Buckets, though. Fun fact: Jimmy Butler has beaten Anthony Davis 12 out of 13 times they've played previously.
That's a great
Yeah.
statistic.
Well, you also have to kind of think about the teams AD was on before
New
the
Orleans.
Lakers.
Yeah. But it's just a fun fact. And of course, now when it matters the most, it's not looking so great for Jimmy, but hey, you never know.
And he's been playing fine, though. I mean, but you can only do so much.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Sports are always fun, though.
Oh, yeah, got to talk about sports, of course. But McGillin's is known as one of the best and most authentic Irish bars in all of the U.S. What's your secret?
Well, as I emphasized earlier, there's a few things that make it successful, and I'll delineate them. First of all, our name, McGillin's Old Ale House. Paul McGillin used to go down to his basement and bring up buckets of beer for his guests in the 1800s, 1860 to when he passed away. So it's always been beer centric. It's old. We're the oldest bar in the city of Philadelphia. So that's important as part of our brand and what makes us unique. But also what makes us unique is that this has always been a family run, hands-on bar. I'm not some rich lawyer or developer or something that is in this for a hobby. Pa did it, and Ma after him did this and ran this bar. And then after that, Joe and Henry Shapaniak and Spaniak, that's my father-in-law and my wife's uncle, they bought it from the McGillin family, and they ran it for 35 years. And now my wife and I and my son are running the bar, and we're hands-on. Two out of the three of us are still on premises almost every day. My wife is practicing retirement since COVID began, so she's home, helping to homeschool the kids remotely, the grandkids. So that's a big part of it. And the third thing, and I guess I'm saying this for anybody who thinks to get in this business is we've always owned real estate. And every bar that we had, this is our third one, we owned the real estate. You have to own the bricks. These people who go out and open up 2, 3, 4 bars and think they're flying high and doing great, and when something bad happens, like right now, they're in big trouble. So own the bricks, we've owned the bricks, and Joe and Henry own the bricks, and the McGillin family own the bricks. Otherwise, you're just making a landlord rich.
Yep, and it sounds like
those are the three parts of what I feel makes for the longevity of this business.
That's awesome, Chris. Yeah, the whole family aspect that it's been passed down from different families throughout the years is awesome. And then it's funny that you mentioned owning the bricks, because one of the last podcasts we talked to them as well, and they said they were able to make it through COVID because they do own their property, and they've been fortunate to have enough saved up while owning the property to make it. And they kind of said the same thing: when you don't own it and something hits, it just can go downhill very quickly.
It sure can.
St. Paddy's Day at McGillin's Old Ale House. What is that like?
It's very exciting because, as you mentioned before about March Madness, it coincides with March Madness, so we combine the two things. Plus, there's a third part of the month of March, and that's the Philadelphia Flower Show, which is the largest indoor flower show in the world, and that brings about 200,000 people into the downtown area. So the whole month of March is just amazing. We serve green beer. We do add some Irish items like corned beef and cabbage, lots of Irish whiskey. So it's just really great. And we probably have about 2,000 people go through here, not just on St. Patrick's Day, but the 2 Saturdays prior to St. Patrick's Day, we have citywide pub crawls, and that brings in, thousands of people as well.
That's very cool. Do you have any long-time relationships with other bar owners in the area?
Yeah, I do. One of our good neighbors is Fergie. He's a Dublin-born bar owner. He's right around the corner, and we see, after hours, or I don't work nights anymore, but late in the afternoon or whatever, if I want to stop off for a drink or something before I head home, I usually will go to Fergie's. It's a lot different from McGillin's. It's very, very Irish. There's no TVs. Very, very intimate. They know you. They know your name. And then, of course, there's another fellow, Mark O'Connor. He and I have known each other for as long as I've been at McGillin's. Really, really fine bar owner. He owns the Irish pubs. There were 2. They just sold off one of them, and he has one that hasn't reopened because of because of COVID. But Fergie's is open, and we're open. There's other bar owners in the area too, but those are the 2 that I stay in touch with.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question, Chris. If you're not at McGillin's, what bar would you be at, or would it be one of those two as well?
Yeah, I would stop off at Fergie's, and he's right around the corner. So that's one of my more favorite. I live in a suburb of Philadelphia, about 10 miles west of here, and so I have couple places where I go frequently, not necessarily to hang out drinking, but to eat dinner, on my way home.
All right, so you're Philly, born and raised. What would you say is your favorite hometown restaurant?
We have a place called Ralph's. It's an Italian restaurant in South Philly. It's the oldest Italian restaurant in the United States. Again, very intimate. They used to serve a lot of famous people as well. Very, very tight seating and all. I haven't been there since COVID, but it's got real good Italian food. Good mussels and seafood and things like that. So that's my particular favorite right now.
Those all sound like great options, Chris. And I have to mention it since we're talking about Philly. If you're in Philly, where is the place to go to get a cheesesteak?
McGillin's.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's simple enough.
So, the two that are always on the TV when they do Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, a lot of times they do a thing, for Pat's and Geno's across from each other. And they're frequently mentioned as, like the hot tourist spots. But then there's others. There's other places, in Philly. And again, and I was on the Fox News one morning during the Super Bowl. We did a cook-off against the Boston restaurant. The host asked me, and she's from Philly, well, what's the secret of a good cheesesteak? I'm thinking I'm going to say how it's cooked, etc. It's the roll. So the roll is what's important. It's made with Philly water and Philly yeast, and they've been doing it a long time. We have a lot of a lot of Italian bakeries. They all end with a vowel, and they make great bread. So that's the secret. So we serve a really good Philly cheesesteak. I don't particularly like the two famous ones, Geno's and Pat's, because they serve that artificial American cheese. We like to serve ours with provolone cheese. We feel it's more authentic. Since it was an Italian type of item when it was started from a man's grocery store. He cut off some cheese and fried it. Some steak, cut it off and put some cheese on it. He wouldn't have used Cheese Whiz. He would have used probably provolone.
I love where you're going with that, Chris. Frank and I are looking at each other. We're 100% all for provolone.
Yes, sir.
I'd want to eat a cheesesteak any other way. We have been told by one of our earlier guests, he was actually born in Philly. And he was telling us about some of the cheesesteaks there. And he said, you still have to try the ones with the Cheese Whiz and the American cheese, but the provolone is always going to be the go-to.
I think so, too. In fact, we try to use an aged provolone, but the aroma, the odor was so pungent that we had to stop, that some people were a little offended by the aroma. They're a little more bland. So we use, it's an imported provolone, but not aged.
Okay, yeah. Don't want to get the place too stinky.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, when we had Johnny Ansa on the show, he's the food and beverage director at the Heights. We had him on, and he said that in Philly, some places they won't serve you if you try to just say a cheesesteak. That you got to say whiz it was out, and you got to go up there and you got to pretend like you know what you're talking about. Otherwise, they're just gonna kick you out. That's just what we were told.
Right.
And you guys have been featured on some pretty prestigious news sources. So, Esquire, CNN, USA Today, Huffington Post. Which publication are you the most proud of?
I'd have to say the New York Times. We were featured. We had a pickle martini, a recipe for pickle martini. That's an homage to Ben Franklin. Never came to McGillin's. He was long dead by the time it opened. But he loved pickles and pickle juice. So the pickle martini was featured in the New York Times. We were also featured in the New York Times in their crossword puzzles. So those are the two. We were featured in Gourmet Magazine as one of the best Irish pubs in America. So there's a lot. It's hard to pick any one in particular. We're just happy that people remember us, and we hope they remember us after COVID and when tourism returns.
Absolutely, yeah. You touched on it. The New York Times, Gourmet Magazine, you really can't get much better than that. So that's just a testament to how great your establishment must be. With that being said, too, do you know, what's the process, right? So if the New York Times wants to write a piece about you, do they come in, try a couple of drinks, and then they write it? Or what does that process look like?
I don't know. The New York Times, they have local, I'm not sure if they're actually writers for the New York Times or whether they're stringers here in the area. Again, sometimes you put things out now because like digital marketing is really exciting. So it could be out there somehow that they were looking for a drink, this particular drink. We had another one. My wife's going to kill me because I can't remember when we had the King Tut Museum here, and that was also in the New York Times. And she thought of that one. I think she thought of the pickle martini too. But we had with Goldschlager in it, so it was a homage to that, the Tut Museum, the King Tut exhibit. So I think they just find us, really.
Very cool. And you touched on digital marketing. How has your marketing strategies changed, since first taking over the establishment in 1993?
It's dramatic. We started out, and you mentioned Irene early on in this interview. She's our publicist, and she handles it. And I convinced her to take us on because she was doing strictly restaurants, and she didn't quite think we were, the kind of client that she would normally have as a restaurant. But I kept calling her and saying, "Come on, Irene, why don't you come and visit?" So she started out as a straight ahead pen and pencil, typewriter, computer person, and she has evolved into a really good expert, really skilled expert in digital marketing. In fact, the local tourism bureau has asked her to come in and help their staff with that digital. It just makes it so much. I remember when we first took over, I said, it's a shame that we're not in any of these tour guides, like the Lonely Planet or whatever, because people really would like to be here. I attribute it to the digital marketing that now we're in those travel guides because, people like Philadelphia, and then you say Old Bar in Philadelphia or whatever, Historic Tavern in Philadelphia, and then they come to us. So it's been a huge part of our marketing. How did you hear about us?
I'm the one that usually sets up the first contact with most of the bars. And I had actually reached out first on Facebook after seeing your article or an article by Esquire featuring you guys.
Oh, cool.
So that was how it went down. Yeah. And then I was able to get in contact with Irene. And like you said, she's absolutely, fabulous at her job, and she's a real professional. So
she really is.
She made it really easy. And here we are today.
She's a pit bull.
What would you say is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur, owning your own establishment, and then also having McGillin's Old Ale House, one of the most prestigious in all of Pennsylvania?
Well, we are, being around young people is, whether it's the customers or the staff, that's really kind of interesting. It'll keep you young. I'm 73. And, just being around them and having them work for me and come in with their different perspectives and ideas, and the customers, the same thing. So that's, I think, what's cool about being at McGillin's.
So if you weren't an entrepreneur and you weren't running a bar right now, what do you think you would be doing?
Well, I have a master's degree in education, and I was an elementary school guidance counselor for 8 years. At the same time that I was doing that, I was working part-time in bars, and then I owned a bar even while I was a guidance counselor. So it kind of set me up real well for being a bar owner, working with little kids, because I say to people, they say, "Are you kid friendly?" And I said, the only difference between a 5-year-old and a 21-year-old, the 5-year-old can always find the bathroom when he has to throw up. So other than that, it's very similar to the 5-year-olds. They stagger, they slur their words, they play with the wax and the candles. They misbehave from time to time, but they're generally pretty good.
That's awesome, and I love that analogy. Would you say that there are any traits that you've carried over from your guidance counselor days to owning a bar?
Yeah, the big difference in my past profession, my wife's also a school teacher. Instead of being a guidance counselor or a teacher, I'm the principal here. So, we have a staff pre-COVID of up to 90, 95 people. That was just the whole human resources training, human relations training. We have a very important part of hiring and on operating a bar, managing people.
And you said you guys had up to 90 employees before?
Yes.
That's wild. That's probably the most that I've heard for one establishment having.
Yeah, most of the ones we haven't reached over, Florida, Bama maybe, but most of them are only around 20 to 30. So how do you manage 90 to 95 people?
Well, fortunately, my son is here. I've been especially now with COVID, they're trying to keep me away from people and customers. I do sometimes sneak out of the office and walk around a little bit, but he handles most of it. We also have a really good, our main manager, Gabby Glock, has been here for a long time. She manages the nighttime, which is the most eventful time of the day here. We have two good chefs. They're co-chefs. We're open 7 days. We're open about 16 hours a day. So it's important that we have a deep staff and deep management.
And for anybody that was, joining the industry or wanted to start their own restaurant or bar or anything like that, what would be your advice to anyone that's looking to start that journey?
Don't. Part of what we do here, my son and myself and my wife is, it looks easy. You could come in here on a Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and I might be chatting with someone, at the back of the bar, and they say, "Oh, God, that looks like a great way to make a living." But it's very, very physical, exhausting business. It's also mental. It's all about the numbers, making the numbers work. Your profit margins on food are very small. So you got to make sure that you're either not losing a lot of money on the food and making a lot on the liquor, or making a little bit on the food and making a lot on the liquor. That's key.
How did you go about brewing your own beer? Well, I guess you didn't brew it, but how did you get that partnership in place to where you could have the McGillin's lager and the McGillin's ale?
Well, even before I bought McGillin's, I spent a few years in sales, and I read quite a bit. So Carol Stout's quite renowned in this area as a brewer. I think she was the first licensed brewer in the United States, but at least one of the most famous. She won more gold medals than any other woman at the Denver Beer Fest that they do every year. So I reached out to her, and I really wanted to have a unique. When we took over, we had 5 draft beers here. The first thing we did, we expanded from 5 to 12. And then from there, we went to where we are now, which is about 33 different kinds of beer here.
Is there more planning and more processes that are in place when you have 30 beers that are on tap?
Yeah, again, my son handles that. He orders it and makes sure that we're rotating them and they're fresh and current. We really exclusively try to sell the local crafts. There's exceptions to that. We have O'Hara's Stout, which is the only stout that's brewed exclusively in Ireland. The stout that you probably get out in Ohio is probably brewed in Canada. But Guinness is the most famous one. They brew all around the world. Our stout comes from County Carlow. It's the only stout brewed only in Ireland. Other than that, we don't have any other imports. And then we do have the national brands. We have on draft, Bud Light, as I mentioned before, Rolling Rock, Coors Light. But but almost everything comes with it from within 100 miles of here.
So do people prefer, did you say you did sell Guinness?
Yes.
I was going to say, do people prefer the local brewed stuff rather than like the Guinness?
I've never had anybody that we've served before we did the O'Hara's. We also have a local one from Sly Fox, O'Reilly's Stout. Ever since we have left Guinness, I've never had anybody say they prefer Guinness to what we're currently serving. The main difference is, especially if it's local, it's non-pasteurized, it's really fresh, it's local, very creamy, foamy. So nobody's ever said to me, "Oh, this isn't as good as Guinness." Maybe they don't order it the next time they come in. I don't know, but I have never heard directly or from any of my bartenders that people are complaining we don't have Guinness. Guinness is everywhere. I mean, you can go to any chain restaurant in the United States, hotels, airports. So it's a national brand. I'm not knocking it. It's a very good beer. When you're in Ireland, it tastes so great. We just prefer to support the small local guys as much as we can.
That's awesome, Chris. And I've actually heard that the Guinness you get over there is better than what it tastes like by the time we get it here. Have you been to Ireland, and do you know if that's true?
It is true, in my opinion.
So have you been to Ireland multiple times? Is it one of your go-to places to visit?
Only once.
When you stopped in Ireland, were you in other parts of Europe as well?
Not on that particular trip.
But have you been to other parts of Europe before?
Oh, yeah. No, since Ireland was my first trip. My son graduated from Cornell, and I said, your graduation present to us is you're coming in here and working for 2 weeks.
Huh.
And we took our first trip out of the country. He went on to work other places, but his first 2 weeks out of hospitality management, Cornell, was working here for a couple of weeks.
Cornell is a great school, especially for hospitality management. That's amazing that he graduated from there.
I'd like to say he's told me almost everything I've known, but that's not quite true. But he's told me a lot.
Very cool. And I was wondering about Europe because, you said that Guinness tastes different over there. Well, we've actually heard the same about like Heineken and other beers that are drafted there and then brought over to the U.S. I don't know if you can attest to that.
Strangely, being in the business I'm in, I'm not a big beer drinker. I only drink wine. I've never in my whole life ever had any distilled spirits. I come from a long line of Irish alcoholics, so I've stayed away from hard liquor, and I drank beer for a few years, but mostly only wine. Sometimes too much, but I control myself a little more that way.
What would you say is your favorite wine at the moment?
I have. I actually used to say I have two favorites, but I'm going to say I have three. I have red, white, or rosé.
Hey, can't beat that.
Have you had like a big discrepancy, or do you like between like a $5 bottle and like, let's say like a $500 bottle, do you prefer one over the other, or is it just depending on the type?
I've never been fortunate enough to drink a $500 bottle of wine, so I couldn't tell you that. I have tasted some better wines, and usually when you have that really, really good wine, you can see that why it's so valued and so nice. But I just have a sweet spot for wines between $10 and $20. And there's a lot. Again, getting back to local. I'm not partial to Pennsylvania wines. I don't quite like the wines that we produce locally yet, but California just does great wines.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of wine. I've had a few different kinds, but I prefer the sweet red. Don't quite have the palate for that the dry stuff yet.
I'm in that same boat, and we had the opportunity to have Joey's aunt on the show, and she owns a wine and Wine and Market?
Yeah, she owns like a wine and cheese shop.
Yeah, wine and cheese shop up in Tecumseh, Michigan. So we drove up there one time, and we got to try a couple different wines, but I'm still closer to the sweeter end of the spectrum personally.
If you get the good food combination to go along with some of the dries, they're not bad though. If you have the right cheese and the right bread to go with it, she told me that.
Yep.
And those chocolate bites.
Oh yeah, those are
chocolate cherries. Is that what they are? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying you're so good. As you can tell, we kind of geek out over food and drinks.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It's always a problem because right after we get done with the show, we're like,
what are we eating? What are we drinking?
Right. It's like, oh man, now we're starving, and we could definitely use a beer. So it always gets to that point. I'm gonna move on to some of the fun and off topic questions now. And my first one is going to be, what is the most thrill seeking thing that you've ever done?
Starting a business.
Okay. I can't disagree with you on that. I mean, we've been in business now for just over a year with Winhouse Software, and it is easily the most thrilling thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it's something new every day.
Yep. There's something new, and now we're basically with this new outdoor stuff. It's like opening a new restaurant here. We've been running a bar here for 27 years, but this is a whole new experience. What's going on right now?
Has the legislation been amended at all for like to-go cups or outdoor drinking, open container laws, or anything like that?
We're at 50% on the inside, and the city has closed down our streets around us, so we're able to go out onto the street. We're in a very narrow alley. It's called Drury Street, named after the Irish theater district and the English theater district. So it's a very narrow street, so we couldn't do sidewalk dining. Our sidewalks are not wide enough, but they've closed down our streets Wednesday through Sunday, several hours each day. So we've been expanding out to that. So that's why I say it's like opening a new restaurant.
Oh, wow. So how do you guys like put tables on the streets, fold up tables? Or?
Yep. You're permitted 50 seats. So we have tables. We just got our heaters in the other day. So we'll have heaters. You have heaters, you have seats, you have tables, you have umbrellas, you have all kinds of stuff that you have to do.
Wow. So you can have 50% inside and then another 50 people outside.
50% in, 50% in as long as they're socially distant, and then 50 persons outside.
With all of the furniture and chairs that you have outside, I imagine you said it's only a couple hours each day, right?
I think it's 3 o'clock today, 3 till 11 tonight service. Everybody has to be off the street by midnight.
Okay.
Saturday and Sunday is from noon. So, it's good. It's been very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a new one. I have not heard anybody say that, streets have been closed down for X amount of hours each week and you're able to start facilitating work out there. That's very cool.
Well, I'm sure they're doing it in Cleveland where they've actually allowed the businesses to take over the parking lanes in front of their business. They're doing it in Philly. They've been doing that since early on in the summertime, where you can take over the spaces in front of your business into the street. There's a parking, like if there's parking on the street, on-street parking. So that's been going on for a little while. But this is actually the closure of actual streets nearby.
That's pretty awesome that your legislation did that in order for some of the bars and restaurants to be able to serve closer to the amount of people they would originally.
Yeah.
Speaking of some fun questions, there is the Philadelphia Eagles versus Pittsburgh Steelers game this weekend. What do you think about that?
Well, I have very low expectations. Their team is doing really well, and ours is doing very poorly. I know I sound like a bad fan, but we have suffered a lot of serious injuries. We had essentially no wide receivers. So, Carson has not had a good season, our quarterback, but I can't attribute it entirely to him. The offensive line is banged up and our receivers are banged up. So people talk about Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, but, other than hockey, our big rivals are the people in our division, the Giants and the
Redskins,
Cowboys and the Redskins. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Eagles are banged up. Actually, Frank and I both had a Dallas Goedert on our fantasy teams. Mm-hmm. He was my sleeper tight end pick this year, and I was pretty sad that he got hurt because I watched him last year, and I knew Zach Ertz is getting a little older, and I'm like Goedert's he's a great tight end, and he's gonna do well. He was top like 7 for us, and then he got hurt, and I'm like, of course.
Yeah, and that's why Zach could be a double team now. This last week, he was double teamed with Dallas on the field. It's hard to double team him. Yep. So that's hurting Zach Ertz's production as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he's like one of the only healthy ones left. I think their starting receiver is Greg Ward now. I didn't even know who that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we're big fantasy football guys, but me specifically, I'm really big into hockey, and Flyers have been pretty good the last 2 years, and they made it pretty far in the playoffs. Yeah, Carter Hart, yeah, he's the real deal.
I hope so.
What would that mean for the city if the Stanley Cup gets brought back?
A long time for that, I'll tell you. 73, 74. That's a long time ago since we were that good. We traded or gave up on that one goalie, the guy from Columbus. What's his name? The Russian. We got another one, Braskalin. We got another Russian who was a bust and let him go. And Columbus did real well with their goalie. So anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I remember when Brizgalov was in the league. That was an adventure because every time he got in front of the media, his English was so poor that he would say something random. Yeah. Like he'd start talking about like astronomy or like the water source or just some real weird stuff. He was a bizarre guy.
Yeah.
One thing we are fortunate in both being from Michigan, the Red Wings, not in the past few years, but they have actually won us some Stanley Cups, and we can't say
in our lifetime.
Yeah, exactly, in our lifetime. So that is pretty nice.
I mean, yeah, and the 04 Pistons.
Yeah, Pistons have been fine. And I mean, the Tigers too, not that long ago. Everybody besides the Lions and Michigan football. I'm a big Michigan football guy, so we've had some tough times as well.
They say that wine hangovers are the worst of any liquor. Can you attest to that? And if there is a hangover recipe, what is it?
My wife attests to the fact that I drink too much wine, to the fact that I don't usually have a hangover, so I can't really tell. It's been a long time.
So is that the key?
Is it what?
Is that the key? Just drink a little more than you think?
I think so. I don't know, but I don't really suffer from hangovers too much. Just a little, sometimes dehydrated, but that's it. But I think that's the key with wine too. Is it's not like liquor or beer where you can just drink and drink and drink and drink. At some point, you just have had enough. I have anyway. So you know what I mean. So
Yeah, of course. That's a pretty great superpower to have, though. No hangovers ever.
Yeah.
That'd be my superpower if I could have any.
Yeah. But we do serve a lot of our famous Bloody Marys. We have a secret recipe, and we don't even share it with the bartenders. Only the chefs can make it in the kitchen. So, and that's a great hangover remedy. And we do a lot of them on again pre-COVID. Dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of Bloody Marys over the Saturday and Sunday. We run a special on Saturdays and Sundays.
Wow. Can you tell us like what you garnish it with?
Yeah, well, we first of all we salt the glass, and then we put in there. It's really like a whole fruit tray, basically. We put a celery stick, a lime, a lemon, and olives. So when with the garnish, it's quite a sight. And we serve it in a beer mug. We try to serve everything in beer glasses. We use a Pilsner glass for a lot of our highballs and cocktails, and then the mug we use for a lot of drinks that people don't traditionally get in a beer mug.
That's awesome. I've heard the East Coast Bloody Marys are just so much better than anything we can get around this area, at least. I don't know if that's true or not from your experience.
We think ours is pretty good. I guess say the same thing. So.
Gotcha. And since McGillin's has been around since 1860s, do you have any good ghost stories that go along with it?
Well, we've had a lot of these paranormal societies come in here. And strangely, I think the most interesting one was someone came in and they're like, I feel a presence right here. And it happened to be the exact spot where Pa McGillin was at the time. He was working on a heating system in the McGillin's in the basement. And he passed away. He had a heart attack and died. So, and the spirit was right then and there. So that's pretty much my favorite ghost story here, that someone said they felt a presence at that exact spot, because it's the space. It's three. We have two stories of in a basement, so it's 3 stories here. So that paranormal society person really nailed it.
Yeah, that is freaky.
It is freaky.
You said that was your favorite. Do you have any other ones that are pretty interesting?
One night I was here and like the TVs kept going in and out. Of course, we have Comcast. This is our hometown, Comcast hometown. So that's not unusual for TVs. But the way the TVs were going on and off and on and off, it wasn't just like losing cable. It was the TVs themselves. And they came right back on. And then one of my servers said that she actually saw a presence in the mirror. We have a large mirror in the middle of the room. So that was pretty freaky too. And I was here for that. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, little scary.
Yeah. That reminds me of like the story Bloody Mary, when you go into you go into the bathroom, you turn off the lights, spin around a couple of times, and you say your name, and you see something in the mirror. Yeah, that's maybe your bartender was doing that, and I don't know, saw it in the mirror. Who knows?
And we were talking a little bit about travel before. What is your favorite place you've been to, and that you would recommend to others?
Well, my favorite place is always the last place I went that was significant. So my last major trip, my wife and I went to Malta, and it was really a cool spot. It's a little tiny speck of an island in the Mediterranean between Sicily and North Africa. And it was quite significant because during the Second World War, it was Churchill really believed they were at that time, they were British citizens, the people of Malta, and it was important because it diverted a lot of attention from Mussolini and Hitler in the war effort, and they were sieged. It has a long history of holding their own against sieges. So that was a really interesting place.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And if you were to recommend one place for food and beverage, where would it be?
Well, the last place I went is the one that comes to mind. But Italy, and I know one of you, his name's Francesco. I'm not sure which one it is. So
that would be me. Yeah,
it has to be. It has to be Italy. The food there is just amazing. The scenery and the food. I mean, France is fabulous too. Like we're in Lyon, and that's a culinary capital. But just everywhere you went, street food in Italy is great. It's just fresh seafood, the pasta. The sauces there are great. So I just love the Italian Italy for its culinary.
Absolutely. I can corroborate that story as well. I had the opportunity to go to Spain when I was 18, and well, it wasn't Italy, but within Spain, on the northern border, there was a restaurant that was all Italian owned. Everything was in Italian. So, I mean, like I know a little bit of Spanish here and there. We go into this restaurant, the entire menu is in Italian. I was not ready for that at all. The only thing I could read on the menu, I'm not kidding, was lasagna. So that's what I got. That's what I got, and it was the best meal I've ever had. It bar none. It's not even close.
Wow.
So they do it right over there.
Yeah.
And I guess we're wrapping up the show now. One last question I wanted to have for you before you can ask us any other questions if you have them is what is something that you wish you had known when you started out on your journey?
I guess just how hard it is, when you do this business, again, you go into a successful place and it looks easy because whoever's managing it makes it look easy. Like anything, like, good skilled athlete, it looks so easy, but then try to do it yourself. So I guess the thing that I learned along the way is things are never, ever as bad as they seem, and they're never, ever as good as they seem. So going from a year ago, when things were really going great, business-wise and dollar-wise, to today, where, frankly, we're pinching pennies and making sure that we survive this thing. You can't get too high when things are good, and try not to get too low when things are challenging.
It's all about having that stable mentality and knowing the balance.
Yeah.
So if we walk into a bar and it looks like everything's going smooth and everything's running super well, just know that that owner's probably doing a pretty kick-ass job.
Yeah. You can just tell, everybody just kind of clicks, just like, you guys are sports oriented, when you see a team, and they're working as a team, that coach work that through, and he has leaders on that team that, kind of lead, like our managers here and our one thing we didn't get to is, one of our secrets here too is, we have a bartender that's been here for 45 years. He was here before we took over. I have a server who's been here for 45 years. She was here when we took over. We have a cook that was here 30 some years, and she was here. So a huge part of our success is appreciating the unique personalities of each of these people, and the newer ones that come along kind of learn from the other ones, It's all about being friendly. It's all about service. It's all about getting the people to come back again.
Wow, that's a long time. Do you see that with a lot of your servers and bartenders and waitresses that they tend to stay around for a while?
Yes. I mentioned the three of the longer lasting persons. And again, our kitchen's reduced. So that person that was working in the kitchen for 27 years, she came here as a young lady, and now we need hosts now to manage the people. So she's doing that. She hates it. She wants to go back to the kitchen, but everybody says, Ivy, you do an awesome job. You got to stick with this for a little while until they need you down there. You know what I mean? Because I don't need the 10 to 12 people that I did pre-COVID. So I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. And then our other people, 8, 10, 12 years. I mentioned Gabby, over 10 years. She's a manager now. She started as a server. A lot of these people have been here 5, 8, 10 years. Your core is here a long time. Of course, it's because we do offer, pre-COVID, we had, 401k, we had paid vacations and time off. We had a healthcare plan. So we had a way, we try to manage that those folks would stay here. But a lot of it has to do with each other. They like each other and they like to work with each other. And we try to have an environment where they can be successful.
That's awesome, Chris. I haven't heard that from too many other establishments that they actually have a 401k and a retirement plan and all that. That's amazing that you guys offer that.
And health benefits.
Yeah, and health benefits. Like that's amazing.
Unfortunately, we don't have any of that right now because, we're doing about the whole month of September, we did what we did in a week last year. So revenues are way, 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 way off. So.
Of course. You have to keep the establishment running at some point, but I'm sure you guys will get back to that once everything blows over and, maybe a year, 2, 3 years from now.
We hope so. And I hope you've got a senator running out there and a governor who's did a really terrific job. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but I have sent some money to, what's his name? Peters, right? Your senator is running. What's his name?
I believe so. Yeah. I know our governor is Mike DeWine.
Oh, that's Ohio. Now you said Michigan before, so Michigan.
Oh,
Gretchen.
Michigan. Yeah, well,
Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah, Gretchen Whitmer.
Well, yeah, we're both from Michigan originally. I'm from
Okay, but you're in Ohio. Okay, I knew there was some Ohio and some Michigan there. So so I've been paying attention to the Michigan politics more than Ohio. But I know Gretchen. She's done a good job, and the senator, he has a fight in his hand. I've sent him a few bucks here and there. So
my family actually owns a pretty big farm right outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then my mom's from the Cleveland area. So we pretty much go anywhere from like Ann Arbor to Cleveland on any given week.
So did you work on the farm?
Yeah, I worked on the farm from the time I was 10 to 18, 19.
It's so much like a restaurant, I'll tell you right now. It really is.
I mean, it's kind of great because you get to, you experience working long, hard hours. And on top of that, you get to go to the markets 4 times a week and learn to sell. So you learn hard work, selling. It's a little bit of everything, really. Yeah,
I was out there, and we were out in Lancaster County, where the Amish are, and on the weekend, it was a thing we went to. And it's just remarkable, the work ethic of farmers,
What'd you guys do out there?
There was actually a crafts fair. A friend of ours is a craftsman. He's an artist, and he was displaying some of his product. So, but then we also went to a corn maze and children's park that we took my granddaughter to. So, we go out there, we buy flowers out there. They have these unbelievable nurseries, and I don't know if you've seen pictures of the front of McGillin's, but it's pretty, for an urban place, and it's all window boxes and things like that, but containers. But I'm into flowers, so we buy them out there in Lancaster. They're just beautiful product.
Living and being on a farm and everything, it's a great experience.
Well, it was an experience talking to you gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
You as well, Chris. We appreciate it.
And if you have anything else, if you missed anything, you can talk to Irene or talk to me again.
Will do. And lastly, do you have any closing thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns for us or the podcast you want anyone to know about?
Just keep up the good work, we need what you're doing right now, good independent people just, starting businesses and starting enterprises. Hope it works out for you.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been a great time.
All right, After Hours Nation. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to stay updated, you can check out our site at afterhourscast.com. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday morning for our next episode. After Hours Nation, stay thirsty, my friends.